All right, welcome to our next Convergent happy hour. I'm still getting used to these things and how to manage the technology while we're live. So I'm try a couple new things today that we didn't have last week, and I'm also going to be managing participants as they continue to join throughout as well. So welcome back, everybody. Excited to see you, and we'll definitely have more time to chat later. But I want to get through what maybe you might consider the boring part of this, which is the market side. I don't know how much you guys get of that every day, but I think it's always helpful. I'm going to try to kind of spin it from a different angle today and not just focus on the market, but in particular talk about oil, since that was kind of a funky thing that happened this week, going negative, and kind of helping you understand why that happened and what it really means. So with that, I'm going to get into sharing some of the things that have been going on this week. So let me share my screen with you all. So y'all see this this chart here. So this is the new claims for unemployment this week. Came out this morning. It's a little bit hard to see, but it's about 4.3 million in new claims that came out this week, which brings the 5-week total to about 25 million. So what you see across the screen here over the last year and a half or so, it's been an average of about 0.2 million or 200,000 per week of initial claims. And so just completely out of the ordinary and drastic what we're seeing going on in the unemployment claims. And I think probably as important or more important are continuing claims. So these are people that stay on unemployment. So they, some people apply for 1 week and for whatever reason fall off. We're up to 16 million as of today of continuing claims, which at the very peak in the 08, 09 financial crisis, we had about 7 million. So we're more than double the peak of the financial crisis in 2008 in terms of continuing claims. So to me, this is while it's nice to see the market go up, and I've talked about this on the videos, there's just a lot of stuff going on that still gives me some pause that this is over just yet. And so I found this also to be pretty interesting. I hope you guys can see this. If you can't see this well, somebody come off mute and let me know. But hopefully this is big enough for you. But I thought this would be an interesting visual to see the magnitude of what we're going through. So what this chart is showing is the first 4 weeks of a unemployment crisis and how many new claims there were in that 4 weeks. So this is the 4 weeks ending last week. There were 22 million claims during that time frame, and they're the biggest 4-week claims in any of the previous major downturns that we've seen have been the max around 2.7 million. So about a 10x almost in terms of what we've seen in the first 4 weeks of this situation. So this is showing you again the weekly claims coming in over the course of the last number of weeks, not counting this week. And then also just to give you some perspective down below, just the population of some countries around the globe in comparison to just the job losses that we've had in those first 4 weeks. And I was listening to something today or reading something today, after today's, we're at like 26 million in 5 weeks. And there's only 2 states in the United States that have more than 26 million citizens. So pretty severe in terms of the total amount of unemployment going on. So what that really makes me think about is, what is that going to do to the economy long term, not just short term? And so I'm going to try something new today and do a little bit of a poll to get you guys kind of figure out what you guys are thinking around if we're able to get through this at some point in the near future. How are you guys thinking about how we're going to get this economy restarted again? So I've not done one of these before, so hopefully this works. And it's anonymous, so you don't have to worry about putting something out there that you might not be comfortable with. So question number 1, how soon after the lockdown is lifted will you dine out at a restaurant? Immediately, wait till this summer, maybe wait till the fall or the winter, not until next year, or maybe never? And then question number 2, are you guys able to vote? Okay. And And can you guys just see the first one or can you see the second one? Okay, you're seeing all of them? Okay. Let's see, how do I advance the poll? Oh, here we go. All right, so number 2 is how soon would you be willing to dine out at a restaurant after the lockdown? Or no, number 2 is an airplane, sorry. Not seeing it as well on my screen. Let's get back to that. So number 2 is how soon after the lockdown is lifted would you book travel on an airplane again? And number 3 is how soon would you be willing to go to a large sporting event, like a concert or Seahawks game, something like that. All right, so I think we've got about half of you have voted, a little bit more than half. I'll give it just a couple more seconds here. So just what the numbers are showing right now in terms of a restaurant, we've got immediately is about a quarter of you. By the summer is about another half. So that means about 25% of you would wait at least until the fall or the winter. On the travel, we'd have about half would travel either immediately or by the summer, but another half would wait at least until the fall or winter or not until next year. And then the large sporting event, in terms of the poll, it looked like only about 30% would do something in the very near term, either immediately or in the summer. And well over half, over 60%, would not be willing to do that until the fall or winter. And even a large chunk, over a quarter of you, wouldn't do that until at least 2021. So I'll just throw that up there on the screen for you guys. I think, so you guys can see that too. So the reason I asked that, and what I'm going to show you is not exactly the same, but I wanted to show you something I found today related to that. So there was a CBS poll today. Let me zoom this a little bit bigger so you guys can see it. So basically the same questions. And this was really right away. So how comfortable would you be going to any of these areas right away once the lockout is lifted? And as you can see, most of it was pretty in the red. Now, again, they didn't go further out like I did. I thought that was a little bit more interesting to see how soon you all would be willing to do that. But I wanted to get a sense for that because that's some of my biggest concerns, I think, right now about the markets is, there might be some level of pent-up demand, but this is a unique situation where I think that there could be a challenge in people being willing to so quickly go right back out to the way that they were living before this lockdown started. And so that again, that gives me some pause, some caution in terms of how we're approaching, how we're investing money right now. So with that, I'm gonna go to one more thing. I mentioned I want to talk about oil because that was a question I got quite a bit over email from clients. And so I found an interesting website that I thought broke it down pretty well. So I'm going to try to zoom this so you guys can see it and just kind of walk through. I think they walk through it pretty well. So at one point on Monday afternoon, the price of oil for May delivery, which is a big part of the deal, was negative $37 per barrel, meaning that basically they were paying you to take the oil off from the producers. So why did that happen? That seems like a pretty odd thing to come together. So basically two big things coming together at once. First, a demand shock. So obviously with much of the globe in similar shutdowns to what we have experienced here, no one's driving, no one's flying. So there's not really a big demand for oil. And at the same time, in the kind of the second or third week of kind of the issues related to the coronavirus, Saudi Arabia and Russia kind of started an oil price war, an oil supply war, where they both basically said, we're not going to cut output, we're going to pump as much oil as we possibly can. So the combination of those things together, along with continued limited demand over the last month, is really what led to this just complete drop in the price of oil. And while that is pretty crazy, part of the reason for that is, if we think about what that means, so why would oil drop to negative on the last day or two of the futures contract. So basically, as of like April 21st, if you were holding that contract, you had to take delivery. And where do you take delivery in the United States? There's one place. It's Cushing, Oklahoma. The challenge, though, is that pretty much all of the storage in that area is already spoken for. So if you are responsible for taking delivery, you can't leave it there. You have to take it. So basically, if you were a speculator and not really wanting to hold on to the oil, if you were caught at the very end of that trade, you basically had to sell it for whatever you could, even if you had to pay somebody to take that contract away from you, because if you're a speculator in New York City or Seattle, Washington, you obviously don't have a place to store the barrels. And it's when you're on one of these futures contracts, it's not like it's a 1 or 2 barrels of oil. It's a massive amount of oil that you have to take delivery on. So basically, they were willing to pay money to give it away effectively. So what's interesting and troubling is that right now the spot price is back around $15 a barrel. But if we look out into the future, and if we even look out all the way to 2021, it's not until early 2021 that we see oil getting back above $30 a barrel. So to me, what the oil market is telling us is they don't expect a big increase in demand for a significant amount of time. And so kind of some other quirky things are happening right now because around the globe, most of the storage is already at capacity or more. Large oil tankers are basically now just sitting offshore storing oil. And it might be a little hard for you guys to see, but basically the price to rent the space on these tankers has gone up 10x since February. So it used to cost about $20,000 a day to store the oil. It now costs between $200,000 and $300,000 a day to store that oil. All right. So, and then one last thing, and I mentioned this on one of the videos I did previously, is that why this is not good, why it's good for consumers if we were actually using oil, if we were driving around and getting to take advantage of the lower prices. Around the globe, those countries that pull a lot of oil out of the ground, in order to make their economies work because of the expense it is to pull it out of the ground, at minimum, they need oil closer to $40 a barrel. And in some cases, in like Saudi Arabia, more like $85 a barrel, based on how they run their economy and use the oil to kind of supplement their economy. So I thought that was just a very interesting story that a lot of people were wondering about, and kind of how does that happen? And so hopefully that helped provide a little bit of insight in terms of how we end up with negative oil. Actually, I got to share one more slide. So being a highly regulated industry, I'll show you a disclosure slide real quick so you guys can know that none of this is financial advice specifically or anything like that, just informational. Okay, so again, the goal of these happy hours is to keep this part pretty short. But I'm happy to answer any questions before I turn it over to Ian. So if any of you have any specific questions on the markets, economy, I'm happy to answer any of those. Or if you want to send something over the chat, feel free to send something over the chat if you're not as comfortable shouting it out over the Zoom. So but I'm not offended if you don't have questions. That's I do a lot of communication. Hopefully you guys are feeling good already about a lot of the stuff we're sending out. But if you do have questions, feel free to jump in.
So historically, the oil market has been very reactionary and seems like they overreact to most things. Have you factored that into your analysis?
Yeah, I mean, so what you're saying is correct. So everybody will adapt. So right now, all those futures prices are somewhat based on Saudi Arabia and Russia continuing, and the US continuing to pump oil like they are now. At some point, they're going to have to stop. And if and when they stop, then those prices will adjust. But none of them have made indications yet that they're going to go in a major way to start really slowing down the amount of production they're doing. So, until we start to see them really shut down wells and slow down production, it seems likely that we're going to see pretty low oil prices for a while. And even before they had announced their initial shutdown, so back in late March, they announced that they were going to work together to reduce about $10 million per day, or 10 million barrels per day. At the time, there was about 100 million barrels per day being pumped out of the ground. demand was only about 80 million barrels per day. So even with the announced cuts that they had planned, demand was still not enough to use up all of that. So this was still going to be an issue, even if they had quickly cut, because those planned cuts really weren't supposed to go into effect until May. Unless they're willing to cut a lot, those prices that you see there, those futures prices aren't likely to change a whole lot. Or get the economies back going again and everybody goes back to normal quicker than expected.
Do you expect the U.S. to bail out oil companies, or do you expect to see a lot of bankruptcies in the United States energy market?
I think they'll do some level of bailouts, but I also think this will be a time where probably some of the largest oil companies that have cash will be in a really good position to come in and scoop up assets for the companies that have a lot of debt, that are going to have a hard time servicing the debt. I mean, when I was looking at it, I think we did a video almost a month ago, and I was looking at the oil debt, and it was actually pretty limited in terms of the amount of debt that was coming due in the next year. It really late 2021 or 2022 is when all those debts roll over. So they do have some time, but they definitely need to see a huge increase in oil before they get out of trouble. Cool. All right. So with no other questions, here to say hi?
Oh.
Come say hi, Val.
Like, oh, I don't even know where I am. Where are you?
You got to hold on.
Oh, like,
I'll turn off the virtual
I
background.
see. I was like, I'm floating in the sky, because that was.
Say hi, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Cheers.
I know I don't have anything. Okay.
All right. I'll go back to my pretending I'm back outside again. Some headphones were needed from the office. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to Ian now. So let me pull. And also, while Ian begins speaking, I'm going to put his handout into the chat as well. So let me get back to just the screen from him. So we've got Ian Anderson from Zoetic Wellbeing, and he's going to talk about different tips, 5 tips each on staying both mentally and physically healthy while we're stuck here at home. So Ian, do you want to take yourself off of mute?
All righty. Can everybody hear me? Yep. Thumbs up if you can hear me. Fantastic. Thanks, Homer. Appreciate that. Guys, I won't keep you around too long, but I'm going to go through 5 tips for being physically healthy at home, and then 5 tips for being mentally healthy at home. And none of them require a lot of space or expense or anything like that. Really simple things that you can do yourself or your family. So the first of the 5 physically fit tips that I have is just to regularly. We often think of exercise as this task that you need a gym for, or you need to go out and almost come to the door. But just being physically active on a regular basis is really good. It actually helps boost the serotonin levels in your bloodstream. It's a neurotransmitter, but helps to your nerves to work together. Lifts your mood, improves your mental cognition, memory, learning, all those sorts of things. So there's some studies that have suggested if you move for 15 minutes regularly throughout the day, as opposed to one big chunk of 60 minutes, for example, that can be more beneficial. Okay, so 15 minutes, in the morning, over lunch, in the evening, and you'll have just as much benefit, if not more, than if you spend 60 minutes doing one prolonged workout. Okay, so really easy, and that can be getting out into the garden, it can be doing some housework, or you can do some more structured exercises. The next one, too, is mix it up. So one of the challenges we all face is we get bored. So keep it interesting, whether it's going outside for a walk, whether it's doing some strength exercises, as I said, gardening or housework, whether you're making something with your hands, they're all good ways to be physically active. Even mowing the lawn, for example. So mix that up, and then you'll get benefit of cardio as well as strength. Okay, so cardio is going to help your blood flow, the oxygen move throughout the body, whereas your strength is obviously going to help maintain that muscle, but also your bone density. So as you age and you start to weaken, doing strength exercises are really important in maintaining that strength of the bones. And then mixing it up also for point 2 in terms of your diet. Okay, so making sure you have a variety of different whole foods, whether that's fruits, vegetables, grains, lean proteins, trying to keep things as interesting as possible, and adding a bunch of variety. Number 3 is stretching. Stretching, you can do it in your living room, in your bedroom, where you don't need a lot of space apart from the size of your body. And the benefits of stretching are enormous. Increases blood flow throughout the body. It delivers oxygen to your muscles and your vital organs, your brain. It removes toxins from your muscles and organs as well. So some of the build food that we eat or the breathe actually help those up. So stretching, I can't stress it enough. It is really important, increases that range of motion, huge amount of benefit. Sleep. Often, if you're stressed, it can be difficult to sleep. So in the current climate, if you're experiencing some stress, that can be challenging. But sleep is vital to our body's ability to repair, recover, for our memory and learning. So sleep is vital to staying physically well as mentally well during this time. And the last one for the physically well is to stay hydrated. Okay, the human body on average expels about 100 ounces of water per day, and that's through sweat, through expiration as we talk and breathe, and obviously the main one is when we go to the toilet. But keeping hydrated is really important. It helps your blood stay relatively thin so that you can deliver the oxygen and the nutrients that you need throughout the body. Obviously, about 60% of our body is already water. And so our brain need water, our organs need water, our cells need water, and it prevents that fatigue that can happen when we're dehydrated. Okay, keep the water up. Maybe after you've had tea, grab a glass of water. So that's the fight for staying physically fit. The next one, if you're following in the handout, the next page is about being mentally fit. I've been told to lower my voice, so sorry if I was too. So staying mentally fit during this time, number 1 is to connect like we are now. Human connection is so important for us. It increases our self-esteem, our confidence, decreases stress levels. It helps us to feel connected to a bigger purpose and a bigger community. And so if you're feeling isolated, I want to encourage you to pick up the phone. Obviously, there's a lot of online apps such as Zoom, and I'll get to those in a little bit, but connect with those around you, whether it's friends, colleagues, loved ones. Take those opportunities whenever you can. Number 2 is to practice some mindfulness. So I've got the next 2, mindfulness and to be present in the moment. People often think they're the same thing, so I'm going to distinguish them. Mindfulness, in the way that I'm going to talk about it right now, is to take a moment to think about one element of your body physiologically. Okay, so That can be simply closing your eyes and focusing on your breath. It can be focusing on the position of the fabric of the couch that you're sitting on. Okay, so you're turning your mind's attention to just one thing. And it's happening to you right here, right now. So the breath, focusing on your heartbeat, if you can feel it, focusing on the fabric and the texture against your skin of the couch. And what mindfulness does is it actually starts to clear your mind, apart from the one thing you're focusing on, which starts to reduce the stress levels. It starts to lower anxieties, and it starts to help the body regulate its physiological processes a little bit more evenly, because we can go throughout the day where we jump up and have highs and lows right throughout the day. So mindfulness helps to balance that out a little bit. Being present in the moment, this is 3, can refer to something a little bit bigger. And so the example of, I mean, we're always connected in terms of social media or some sort of technologies on the TV, on the computer, that are constantly happening around us. And we have a bunch of distractions every day. So being present in the moment is trying to...
Ian, I had to mute you for a sec there, buddy. We're getting a little loud. Let's see if sounded any better here. All right, I think that's better.
Oh, sorry about that, guys. Is that better? So where was it? Being present in the moment. Being present in the moment is really about trying to eliminate a lot of those distractions. So when you're having a conversation with somebody, putting the phone down, turning off the TV, and being there in that moment, really connecting with that person. When you go out for a walk, same sort of thing, just paying attention to your surroundings, the birds in the trees, the sun as it shines on you, the different sounds that you hear, all of those sorts of things, and trying to really spend time embracing that moment. We're so busy usually engaged in the past or the future, what has happened or what is about to be, that we forget to focus on the now. And so taking an opportunity to do that is really important. It helps us remember things better. It helps our learning process, and it helps us connect if we're practicing being present with other people. Number 4, and I've only got one more after this. So number 4 is to focus on your strengths. So when we in this sort of environment, so being isolated, we can get down because our routines are messed with, and not necessarily able to carry on with our daily lives as we would like. So it is important to focus on your strengths. What are the things that you are good at that you can still put to use during these times? And what that also does is it connects us to a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning, increases confidence, self-esteem, and you encourage others to do the same. So if other people see you practicing, utilizing your strengths during this time, then encourages them to do the same. And obviously that huge mood lifter for everybody. And finally, 5 is to focus on the positive. Okay, really hard to do in times like this. Obviously everybody is impacted in different ways. So one thing, and you may have heard of it, you can do a gratitude journal or a savoring journal. And quite often we tend to notice the negative really easily. And this is a human trait. We've been trained over centuries to be able to identify risk and danger. It's a survival mechanism. But when we do that, we tend to ignore the positive. And so our perception becomes a little bit skewed. So one thing I'd like to encourage everybody, if you're feeling a little bit down, is to start at the end of the day, take some notes on, well, what was great about today? What do I want to remember? What were some things that went well? And that acknowledgement of the good will start to even out our perspective in terms of good and the bad, because quite often the negative is so dominant times like this that we suppress what is good and happening around us. So that helps to even things just by paying that attention. In the handout, if you have got it open, you'll see there's a couple of little tips and practical ways to implement some of these things. One of the things that I'll just touch on briefly, connecting. Zoom is obviously a platform, but other free platforms out there want to connect with other people, such as Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp, Google Hangouts, Skype. They're all free, all got FaceTime or video chat kind of mechanisms. So if you want to steer away from Zoom and try something else, they've all got mobile friendly apps, and so you do that too. But yeah, I'll turn it over to questions. It looks like there's some in the chat already. Maybe.
Well, I have a question. So many are stuck at home with kids as well. And while we love our kids, sometimes being home all day, every day for months at a time can be a challenge. So do these tips translate? How do we help our kids implement the same ideas?
Certainly. I think, to be honest, I don't have kids, so forgive me for recommending this, but I think that all of these tips can be great as connecting with kids and teaching them and modeling them some really healthy habits to implement for their future. Now, while this is a stressful time for us as adults, it's not going to necessarily be the only stressful time, and it's also really important to equip kids with those tools to build resilience, to build coping mechanisms, and learn how to look after themselves when challenges do arise. And so I think this is a great bonding opportunity potentially for people who have kids, to include them in that journey.
Yeah, I can say from our experience, the kids, they love whenever Val's doing yoga or cooking, they love to participate and do some stretching and all of that. And we've done not as good probably from a habit perspective, but we've done the gratitude conversation at night, and I wish I was better at doing it every night, but that's a great tip.
Yeah, awesome. Really good.
What other questions are out there? You can throw them in the chat or just unmute yourself and ask Ian.
Hey, Ian.
Yeah.
If you're used to going to the club to lift weights and, do that kind of workout a couple times a week, what do you recommend for weight bearing exercises at home if you don't own, dumbbells or?
Sure. Yeah, excellent question. So, I think a lot of people, routine is messed up. If you're used to going to a gym and using their equipment, it can be really challenging to adapt to a home lifestyle without that equipment. So, pretty much everybody has some sort of bag laying around at home. And so, got one nearby. So, a backpack or any sort of bag, to be honest, can be a really good substitute weight. And so let me elaborate. If you fill the backpack with some water bottles or cans of soup or things like that, straight away that's going to become bearing. Okay? And a backpack is great because if you want to do squats or leg exercises, you can put it on your back. Okay, you can do lunges, squats, different things like that. And then you can also use the straps to hold on to for arm exercises, for chest exercises, overhead shoulder press, all those different things. So a bag is an excellent option, and pretty much all of us have something like that laying around. If you don't have something like that, water bottles is fine. Obviously, the lighter the weight, the more repetitions you can do. So it really depends on what you're for. High repetitions is going to help endurance. Bigger weight is going to help that strength. Okay. Depending on what you're looking for, those are some good options.
I love the bag idea. As simple as that is, I'd never thought about that before. Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
Ian, Rob Lane here.
Hi, Rob.
I like your point about being present.
Yes.
My problem is frequently I'll get going during the day and be busy with a million things and forget to bring myself back to being present. Do you have any tips for how to remind yourself to do that?
That's a great question. Yeah, so one of the challenges with implementing anything is habits. We're usually all got our habitual routine. We do things quite often without thinking because it's just part of our daily lives. So when you want to implement something new, it's about changing habit. And sorry, I've got a dog behind me on the couch. Yeah, when we want to implement new habits, one of the greatest to do that, I'm thinking about an associate researcher at Stanford University, BJ Fogg. You may have heard of him. He's the author of a book called Tiny Habits, and I'm not getting paid to say that. But he suggests that with everything that we do, have space either side of it. So for example, when you wake up in the morning before you have breakfast, how do you fill that space? Or after you go to the bathroom, how do you fill that space? And so it's about attaching that new task you want to complete or that new habit that you want to create to something that you already do, that's already existing. And so one thing I might suggest to you is that being present, if you're wanting to do that towards the end of the day, is figure out what's something that you do towards the end of the day. Is it when you close your laptop at the end of the day? Or is it when you are preparing dinner? Whatever it is, something that you're doing, attach that process of being present. Say, okay, before I prepare dinner, I'm going to take 5 minutes just to be present in the moment and consider what's happening right here, right now. Or to sit down with somebody in your life that you can be present with and communicate and be in that moment without distractions. So trying to attach that to something that you've already got in your life is a great way. And that's the same for any of those tips that I've told you about today. Exercise, if that's not part of your daily routine, but you would like it to be, then attach it either before or after something that you already do. So me personally, when I exercise, it's usually first thing in the morning. So before I have breakfast, I'm going to do an exercise. That's my example. So we can help for just about anything, but that's a quick tip.
Thanks, Ian. And that's
Yeah, you're welcome.
BJ Fox, Tiny Habits.
Yes. Yep. No problem.
Maybe if you could type it into the chat, Ian, if you get a chance.
We'll do that.
Hey, just quickly under the category of connecting, our assistant today was telling me about an app called, now let me read it so I don't get it wrong. I think it's called House Party. It's called House Party. It's an app. And she said that they did it for her birthday. She had a birthday party last week and her whole family got together around this app on your phone called House Party. And we're able to play games together. And it's a ton of fun, she said. So I'm going to try that actually with our family, but I'm going to check into it. Sounds like a fun, best birthday party she ever had.
Somebody sent me a
great.
link to download that too. Yeah.
I have heard of that app, but I didn't really know what it did. But you actually reminded me of one other thing. So in terms of apps, sorry to hijack that, Shelley, but in terms of mindfulness, if you're wanting to do some sort of mindfulness exercises, not really sure where to start, there are some great apps for that as well. So Calm is a great app, Headspace, Smiling Mind. There's a lot of other ones. They're the three main ones, but if you want to give it a go and you're not sure how to start, try one of those. Any other questions?
So where can they find you, Ian? If they obviously they can keep asking questions, but if they want some additional tips, want to see you running outside or talking on a daily basis, how can they find you?
Yeah, sure. So in the handout, my info is at the so please feel free to connect with me. I do have a free Facebook group that anybody can join where I'm posting workouts and different advice. So If you want a community to help you with your wellness, feel free to join that. That information is also on the handout. But my email address, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. It's ian.anderson@zoeticwellbeing.com, and I will post that in the chat. And feel free. Happy to help anybody as best as I can.
All right, so I'm going to stop the recording, but feel free to stick around. You know, it's happy hour, so if you have any just chit chats, I know some of you know each other, so yeah, feel free to stick around for a bit, and we'll keep it going.
Cheers.